This video is sponsored by Your Turn Games, a retailer of Redemption CCG with various products, such as singles, sealed product, and great deals on bundles like battle boxes and grab bags. They also have pre-built decks, such as Challenger decks in the $55 range, Contender decks in the $80 to $95 range, and Champion decks in the this deck just placed at Nationals last year range. They also have card supplies to keep you caught up on all of your gaming needs, and at no cost to you, they have Redemption resources such as the latest Redemption news, rules, tournaments that are coming up, and Redemption content such as this. So head on over to yourturngames.biz today, and a big thank you to them for supporting this content.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to Redemption with Jaden. This week on the channel, we've got a slightly different version of content than I normally put out there. I'm actually going to be watching and commentating over a game between agurthewise and smittyseveneyes, which that's kind of fun to say. This is round one of Lackey Grand Prix number 7, which is special in its own right, I guess, because we're testing out new rules. We've got 20 people playing, which I think we did have 20 or even more than that in one of the early Grand Prix, or like one of the ones that's like happened like a year ago now is when I think the first ones started, and a few of those first ones we had a pretty decent number of people participating, and so it feels good to be back into that size. And I think that that's in part because we wanted to get that many people in to test things out, and also because there are more incentives on the line, or more prizes on the line, and that will as there are like door prizes, and yeah, I guess I don't know why I'm telling you this, because if you're participating you already know, and if you aren't participating then you maybe don't care that much because you're not not I don't know, it's probably too late to join at this point. I don't know, maybe if you find someone else who could join with you so that there wouldn't be an odd person, and then you can just both have a bye in the first round or something like that. I don't know. You can talk to Jay to figure that out. But anyways, this is round one. This is I haven't played my round one game yet, and that's why I'm showing you guys this one. Since we're testing out the new rules, then everybody's required to record their games and send them to the elders and stuff. I kind of put out a note out there, or an offer out there, I guess, if anyone wanted to also send their recorded videos to me, and I would potentially use them as content, just to do like commentary over them, or maybe give like some feedback on the gameplay, that kind of stuff. So this is something new I'm trying out. If you guys like it, let me know in the comments. But let's go ahead and get into the game, because I'm excited to get to not have to think about it, or like think about myself playing, but just kind of get to watch a game, which I enjoy doing anyway, and then doing some commentary on it. So looks like they're getting going here right away. We can see from Jake, who's agurthewise here, drew a few lost souls, and the deck that he loaded, I noticed, was called Gold and Thieves, so that should give you an idea of what he's playing. Imagine the list is maybe comparable to the NT Gold and Thieves deck that I built for Your Turn Games, the Contender deck, but obviously he's got some. He'll have the upgraded dominance and stuff. You can see a remnant lost soul right there, which definitely goes well with the thieves theme of taking your opponent's stuff. And I guess I should maybe note, like, it's not going to be quite the same as usual gameplay, where you're going to be able to read all of the cards that I am playing, because I'm not in control of what I'm hovering over. So I'll just kind of read the abilities as they come up, or things that as they become important. So here we can see Jake uses star ability on teaching in parables to reserve the top card of David's deck, which was an Elijah from Prophecies of Christ. You can see one of the main differences, or like an inclusion that I think is a cool meta call right here that we can see in Jake's hand is Faith of Samson, which lets you discard all male evil characters in battle, and it cannot be negated if more than one evil character is in battle. So it's nice with all the banding that's going around on defenses these days. David's using a star ability on Emmaus Road to look at Jake's hand, so he gets to see what all of the nonsense is that's going on in here. And it looks like Jake gets to go first. So that's pretty nice for David because he's kind of we'll get to figure out what he's going up against. Just as he blocks, it looks like he didn't rescue or he didn't draw any lost souls, but Jake does have a hopper to give him. So it looks like Jake is deciding on Lawless here. So it's nice that he's got a set up a macro for that, which just so he can reveal the top 6 to all players. So it puts the Lost Souls in play, and he gets to take an evil card. I feel like, yeah, Sheol is probably what I would go for here as well. If I was going second, then Deceiver would definitely be the play, but since Jake's going first, it makes sense for him to grab Sheol, especially since he's got a Remnant out there, which isn't going to do anything for him, and so he can go ahead and reset that eventually if he gets to trigger Sheol. One thing to note, I think he... I should say, I have already watched the video, and I watched it with the audio from the players, or like from with their voice as well. I figured that it might get too kind of clogged up if you guys were listening to their audio as well as like me trying to talk over them. So I decided to just take their audio out, and then I'll be able to talk about some things that they might have said, or see if I can get a little bit of what they were thinking if they said something while they were playing stuff. And so can see that Jake went ahead and activated or used the ability on the Darkness Lost Soul to play Zacchaeus from his deck, and he used Prosperity, discarding Nebuchadnezzar, drew into a Christian Martyr and a Golden Cherubim. And now he's going to go use Galileans. I do think that I'm not 100% sure on this, but I do think that since Galileans was put in play off of Lawless, that it technically should resolve first, kind of as a part of Lawless's ability completing. That's how it would work if it was like drawn by an ability, like it would complete as a part of the draw. But I'm not 100% sure on that. So basically, I mean, the difference that would make is like then Jake wouldn't be able to exchange like an evil character that he got with Darkness or that he drew with Prosperity with something for Galilean. So the order kind of matters there, but in this case, it didn't really make a difference. So we see Jake exchanging Judas there with the Highwayman. So yeah, it looks like before he goes into his turn here, David plays Vain Philosophy, which that's actually a pretty it's kind of an aggressive play, but it makes a lot of sense based on David being able to use the star ability on Emmaus Road, seeing Jake's hand, seeing that he had Judas and he had Bartimaeus. Those were his 2 heroes, and since Jake used Galileans to ship away his Judas, then he still could have drawn a different hero off of Prosperity, but I think it was smart here for, I mean, depending on what's in his hand, I think it was smart here for David to use Vain Philosophy when he did, especially when Jake's sitting on a Teaching in Parables. That's pretty good, because yeah, if Jake was able to put down Bartimaeus, play Teaching in Parables to snipe an evil character or something from David's hand, especially if he didn't have any other evil characters or any other backup ways around Faith of Samson, then Jake could just walk in with Bartimaeus, get Teaching in Parables back, and then just start doing that every turn. And that can be pretty brutal, especially with Zacchaeus and with the ambushing bandits down. and now Golden Cherubim active and Sheol. They're like Jake's passing the turn with a lot of counters on the board. So Zacchaeus negates enhancements in other players' territories with ambushing bandits. I believe that one, it's if they use a draw ability, then you get to, they have to give you one of the drawn cards, I believe. That if you want to use a good draw ability, that player must give you one of the drawn cards. And okay, so yeah, David's turn. He puts down a storehouse, and then he puts down a Jonah, and Jake just goes right for the Christian Martyr, asking for dominant initiative and taking out Jonah, which um, I think maybe that was a little bit aggressive. It makes sense. Like I can see why he would do that right away, because let's say I want to like hover over the cards and show you what I'm talking about here. But so Golden Cherubim is if opponent uses a draw ability, then you get to search your deck for a card. And so basically what Jake is doing is saying, or what Jonah does is if opponent uses a search ability, then you get to shuffle a card in their territory. So if Jake is just kind of preparing for the draw counter, like if I suppose David could have dropped Mayhem or something like that, and then, or if he had a territory class enhancement that let him draw cards, then Golden Cherubim would trigger. Jake would get to search, but he might not want to, because then that would trigger Jonah. But when the draw happens, it's not like I guess like the draw probably isn't going to happen until David goes to battle, so he could have waited at least until he was going to battle, because his enhancements in territory was negated by Zacchaeus. And then if he did draw, I mean, like he was already disincentivized to draw with the ambushing bandits, so I don't think that Jonah was going to be doing a whole lot in the moment, and maybe he could have saved it for a battle, but I think it was still like a safe play to make, especially with all the defense that Jake had in his hand. Like definitely if he didn't have a good block or anything, then he should have held on to the Christian Martyr. But I think that it wasn't a bad play by any means. I probably just would have waited a little bit longer. I think he could have afforded to be patient in this case. So anyways, we've got a battle going on here. David came in with Isaiah, and which basically, yeah, you just make star cards CBN, and you can activate the star ability on star cards when you play them. Jake blocked with the Highwayman, who let him draw 3 cards, because it's a number of good brigades that the opponent has in play. So there's green, teal, and gold on that fancy looking Jeshua the Restorer there. And then he was able to ban to an NT Crimson Human, which he banned to Zacchaeus, who lets you draw equal to the number of thieves you control when he blocks, which that is also not limited. So that's if you let thieves kind of get out of control, taking up the board, then Zacchaeus can really be a powerhouse in the drawing department. So he got to draw 6 cards off of the block, which is kind of nuts, just with like how much resource advantage on turn 1. This is David's turn 1 that Jake was able to get through this block here. So then David played the Emmaus Road, which it's actually kind of cool that he did not play it in territory. He saved it until in battle, because it makes sense to do. Like that's the thing about one territory class, is that you can still use the territory class enhancements in battle. I know, crazy. So let him take a star card from deck, which he took his name, and then because of Isaiah, he was also able to activate the star ability on Emmaus Road to look at Jake's hand and then see what defense he was going up against here. And now he can play his name to withdraw both the evil characters that cannot be negated. He gets to reserve an evil card from Jake's hand, and then also gets to look at the bottom 6 cards of his deck, and I believe top deck a good card is the star ability on his name. So let's see, evil cards in Jake's hand right now are Fence Jumpers, Disagreement over Mark, Strike the Shepherd, and Hurling Insults. It looks like Hurling Insults is the choice that David makes. I think that that's the right play. It's the that one interrupts the battle. So the other cards that that Jake has in his hand right now are good battle winners, but they don't have any interrupt or negate component. And so as long as David has initiative, then he's going to be better off with Jake having those. I could see an argument for maybe Strike the Shepherd, taking that out, because that can be can take out more of his heroes, since, or I mean, Jake doesn't have any heroes out right now, so it's kind of a one-sided board wipe sort of thing. So okay, so yeah, it looks like David uses his name to top deck Habakkuk from the bottom 6 of his deck. And looks like it's choosing not to draw it with Jeshua, because that would trigger Golden Cherubim and give, well, for one, it would trigger the Ambushing Bandits, so Habakkuk would become Jake's. Well, actually, no, I don't think it would, because of Storehouse, but yeah, Storehouse would be protecting David's hand at that point, and protecting Habakkuk and David's hand, but he does have Golden Cherubim active, and so if he used the draw on Jeshua, then he would get to, or Jake would get to search for any card. So it looks like Jake is going to use Sheol here to, he banishes Christian Martyr from his discard pile to add the Ambushing Bandits. Sheol does require you to banish a card of Matching Brigade, so it looks like they missed that, but Jake did have Nebuchadnezzar in his discard pile, which he could have banished instead, so was not... Yeah, nothing would have changed, I guess, if they had played that normally. I don't think there's any way for Jake to get Nebuchadnezzar back, and spoiler alert, he doesn't for the rest of the game, so Nebuchadnezzar just sits there. But yeah, something to note is that Sheol lets you add a new character of Matching Brigade, which can be kind of cool. If you have like a multi-brigade evil character in your deck, you can just banish that and then add one of your opponent's evil characters to battle, because they're always going to match the brigade. So Ambushing Bandits comes in. Jake gets to draw another 3 cards, which, yeah, it's just crazy. He's drawn 9 cards in this block. And he has initiative against Isaiah, so he plays Disagreement over Mark, targeting Isaiah and Jeshua here. And it cannot be negated by a New Testament card, but of course Isaiah is Old Testament, so as long as David has an Old Testament interrupt or negate, then he'll be able to stop that in special initiative here. But if he had a New Testament negate, like what is it, like Sins Forgotten? I think it's New and Old Testament, so it's a dual Testament card. So that's a negate that would not work. So it's either, if the character it's played on is New Testament, or if the enhancement itself is New Testament, then it wouldn't be able to negate Disagreement over Mark, because both are kind of working together to try to negate the card, if that makes sense. So it looks like David has Gathered Together here, which if used by Green Prophet, which Isaiah is, then it interrupts the battle, and then he can ban to up to X humans, where X is the number of good and evil brigades in play, so that's going to be 4 or 5, because Gathered Together counts the purple on itself. Looks like he's only got 2 to band in, so he's got the Watchman to negate evil search and shuffle abilities, which notably negates Strike the Shepherd, which is something that's kind of just a cool coincidence, I guess, and then he can exchange for a major or minor prophet in his deck. Deck, territory, discard pile, or reserve. If it's Ezekiel, he can reveal a hand or draw 2, cannot be interrupted. And then he also bans in Joshua, which hopefully all you guys know what he does. If not, you should look him up. He's pretty cool. Also, I should note, I'm already this far into the video, but I'm wearing a hood, which I know looks a little bit unprofessional and all that, but the reason is that like my hair over here was kind of sticking out, and I realized that like right as I was about to start recording, and I'm already pretty comfortable. I've got my blanket and everything down here, and I was already set up, so I didn't want to go wet it down to deal with that or anything. So I just put the hood up. Y'all are gonna have to deal with it. It's kind of nice. It's dark and kind of makes it, maybe you're watching this at night while you're getting ready to go to sleep or something like that. Hopefully it's nice and relaxing. All right, so the Watchman exchanged for Habakkuk, who was just on top of his deck there. Habakkuk is a draw punisher. If opponent uses a draw ability, you can look at the top X cards of their deck and discard an evil card. And if a Babylonian is in play, that opponent must underdeck a card from hand. So it's a good thing that Jake discarded his Nebuchadnezzar here, so that there would be no Babylonians in play. So then after that, the disagreement over Mark resolves, and Jeshua and Isaiah are discarded, but since Habakkuk is still in battle, the enhancements stick around, and David gets to stay to fight another day. And so it's worth noting here that the negating of let's see, he's hovering over the cards so I can actually add up the numbers here. His name is a 6-1 gathered together. I think that's just a 2-1, and then Habakkuk is a 3-8, so he's got pretty good numbers. So it is Jake's initiative here, I believe. So yeah, gathered together is a 2-1, so that's 6, 8, 11, 11, 10. So Jake plays Strike the Shepherd, which the first part is you can underdeck a hero or a good dominant from opponent's hand, but that's stopped by Storehouse, which is protecting David's hand. And then if used by an NT character, shuffle all heroes, which, remember, the Watchman negates evil search and shuffle abilities. David did remember that, but it seems like Jake here did not. So he played it for no effect, and he was a good sport about it. It was like, card laid's card played. So he ends up just playing Grapes here to discard his Ambushing Bandits, which just a note for for reference, I guess, is you don't have to discard an evil character. It's just an evil card in battle, and so Jake could have discarded one of his evil enhancements there to keep his Ambushing Bandits around. And since they were tied at 0, David would have been able to make another rescue, but he did not seem to have another hero. Or maybe he did, and he just knew that he wouldn't be able to get through the defense that Jake had left, because he did get to look at his hand. So there were Fence Jumpers, Judas, Deceiver, not much, but enough. Like no enhancements at this point, but looks like, or David already had to use up a lot of his stuff. So he just ends up passing the turn. I think that was a pretty smart play by on Jake's side. He saw that David was down to just 3 cards in his hand, and he probably banded in everyone that he could have with gathered together, and so playing Grapes there was a pretty safe bet, even though it would have given David the option to make another rescue. So we went to Jake's turn here. He put down a Good Samaritan and played a Teaching in Parables. He had to negate David's Storehouse in order to get to his hand. And now we can see David's hand is Word of Their Testimony, the the Brown and Crimson Outsiders, and then Profane Daughters. So Jake gets to reserve one of the 2 evil characters there. It seemed like he wasn't as familiar with these cards, and so he was reading them for a bit there, and he ends up reserving the outsiders, which uh, I think is, I mean, based on his hand, I think that that's fine. Um, but based on, uh, well, yeah, I think he learns later on that he probably should have gone the other way. I'm not sure what all of the options would have been for outsiders. Or I don't know what all David has in his deck that he could have gone to with outsiders, but something like um, Worship of Edom or something like that. Maybe would be a battle winner that he could grab, but uh, yeah, I don't think it would have been anything that Jake would have been too worried about. So anyways, he makes a rescue with Good Samaritan. He reserves Joshua the Conqueror off of, um, let's see, does Good Samaritan reserve from the top or the bottom? I think it's the bottom. So Profane Daughters comes out. He grabs Unsuccessful from reserve, and I think that's where Jake's kind of like, oh, so that's what that does. Initially Profane Daughters, like her main target was Magic Charms before rotation happened. But now it's Unsuccessful is definitely still a solid play there. Now that we're in the second round, he's able to go to reserve. So Jake kind of just took a somewhat drastic measure here, but I think it's reasonable. He played Second Coming to search his deck for 3 woes. Being as far ahead as he is right now, like I think that that's safe to do to negate Profane Daughters, and now he's because he knows that he doesn't have anything else to play, then Profane Daughters is going to go away, and he misses out on the use of Second Coming later to rescue a lost soul, but he uses it now to rescue a lost soul and also get some advantage because Profane Daughters is gone, so it can't be used. You can't use Profane Daughters again, and then also he doesn't get the restriction on Profane Daughters, or Profane Daughters, if the block is successful, restricts opponent from playing Good Dominance until your next turn. So, if Jake needed to, he wouldn't have been able to use his Good Dominance either way for at least a round. So that was, I think that was a very smart use of Second Coming outside of, getting another freebie with getting Son of God back. And so yeah, that was good on Jake's part. It's kind of it's one of those reasons that makes Second Coming better than New Jerusalem. Just kind of on the whole, like New Jerusalem is just about as good because in 95% of the time you're going to be playing Second Coming to get another use out of Son of God. But in kind of this one case, or this this maybe 5% of cases, it made a lot more sense for Jake to use the Second Coming here. So we go to David's turn. He drew a hopper, which he handed over to Jake. He goes to his upkeep and uses Storehouse to take Plague of Blood from his reserve. And then he puts down a Treacherous Land, which I approve of that play for one territory class. I think that I mean, people are going to be playing more stuff in battle. People are still going to be playing Dominance. I mean, Treacherous Land is never a bad card. I think it's just kind of fell out of favor with a lot of decks because it was just like too slow. But with more stuff being played in battle, I think that it's still pretty good, and people are playing a decent amount of white, but not a whole lot of green. So maybe there's some sight lock potential there. David also dropped a good crowd's choice to get Elijah back from his reserve, and he's now making a rescue with Elijah. Deciding who to choose to block here, for sure can rule out Highwayman because then you just get to draw and ban to whoever he wants. So then it's kind of between Zacchaeus and Judas. Zacchaeus would give him a draw 3, and then also I believe that it would be stalemate. Yeah, Zacchaeus is a 4. Oh, no, he's a 4-5, so Elijah would be winning the battle. But he decides to go with Judas instead. He doesn't have good dominance to play, it seems. And I think with Word of their Testimony in his hand, he figures if he does have a demon to ban to, then Word of their Testimony can deal with both of them. Jake does have a demon to ban to in the Deceiver, so he does that and is able to go exchange with a human from his deck. So we'll see what options he goes with. I think just based on what I can see, like the Condemned Thief would make a lot of sense here because with only 3 cards in David's hand, then he would be able to take one of them. Or I guess, yeah, so he's got Storehouse, and so Jake actually exchanges for the Thief here, which is not a legal play since the Thief is a demon. So the Deceiver can't exchange, so he's not able to negate Storehouse, but he does still then exchange for the Condemned Thief. So that was something that they missed. Not sure that would have made too much of a difference based on what's here in David's hand. We can see Drew, Son of God, and then there's the Plague of Blood that he grabbed with Storehouse. So yeah, Jake's got 2 options that are actually pretty, like at first glance it'd be like, oh yeah, just take the Battle Winner, take out Word of their Testimony, but since Jake has Pilfer in his hand, it's a negate, then I think he's better off with the Plague of Blood that he chooses here, and kind of just not risk David hitting something off of the top of Jake's deck. If he, for instance, were to hit something like Faith of Samson, then he would be able to add that to battle and get rid of both of the evil characters CBN. So this kind of just takes the variability out of it and takes the Plague of Blood, which, I think if they had noticed about the Deceiver, only exchanging for humans, so not being able to do the Thief, then it would kind of depend on what was in Jake's top 3, which maybe we'll see eventually unless he shuffles first. But David would have been able to play Plague of Blood there and see what he had. So let's see, the numbers wise, it looks like it's a 3-4, and then Judas is a 6-1, so 9-5 on defense, or on, so it's a mutual. Looks like David passes because he's a 5-7, so okay, so he plays Pilfer to negate and take Elijah, and also draw 1. The negate would kick out Judas because it negates the choose the blocker, which you can now do. It's no longer like inherently cannot be interrupted. But I wouldn't kick out the Condemned Thief because he was banded to, so I don't think he would get to present a new blocker. But as we know, that he didn't have anything that he could have played anyway. So it looks like the top card of Jake's deck was one with the Well, which Plague of Blood would not have done any good there. So it looks like nothing else for... Ooh, Amazing Faith. That would have been interesting. Huh. Yeah, Amazing Faith was in the top 3, and so David would have been able to play Plague of Blood to play Amazing Faith, and I think that would have won him the battle there because, I mean, depending on, who Jake actually ends up exchanging for with the Deceiver there, because, he probably doesn't do the Condemned Thief if he doesn't have a way to negate Storehouse, but might not have had too many other options left. I mean, he's got most of the thieves left in his deck. I mean, I guess there's the Shamed Woman. Oh boy, look at all those tokens. Anyway, what's he doing here? Yeah, he's using the star ability on Amazing Faith to play a Lost Soul from his deck. He plays, he can't play it from David's deck with, because Storehouse, so he goes to his own deck for the Harvest Lost Soul, and it looks like he's going to use 3 Woes on Treacherous Land, but I think David wants him to wait to pass the phase here so that he can play Son of God on the Harvest, which is a brilliant play from David's end. Like is one of his 2 cards, like the only thing, or one of the only things he could do here, but that was the right thing to do. It's important not to miss that when you have that opportunity. So now he can hopefully kind of soldier out a little bit. So I think Jake here is just trying to figure out how he can try to generate a Lost Soul. Shane Woman, you can exchange. Woman at the Well, you can take a Gospel Artifact from reserve. I did see a Harvest Time in his deck earlier when he was searching. So that would be good here. So it looks like his 1 territory class enhancement this turn is going to be the Emmaus Road. You can go grab a star card from deck. Which he's got a few good options here. I mean, Jairus is good with he had Lost Souls to go after. That'd be a but I guess he knows that the 1 card left in David's hand is Word of Their Testimonies, so he's really just kind of going for whatever is most likely to allow him to generate a Lost Soul. So Persistent Widow would be good because she draws. You can maybe draw into something, but Thankful Leper makes sense here. I think that's probably the best play here. That it looks like he underdecked Emmaus Road instead of shuffling it back in, kind of a Wages of Sin or Clinging to Power habit, I suppose. So let's see. So yeah, I think the play would be to attack with Thankful Leper and see if he can find something to get a Lost Soul out. So he's got 5 Lost Souls. Okay, so he goes with Woman at the Well and then bans to the Thankful Leper, but 5 Lost Souls out, so he gets to look at his top 5. So a couple of Lost Souls there. Who is Without Sin, Ambush, and Crowd's Choice. He goes for the Crowd's Choice, which definitely makes sense. He plays it as good, and I'm sure goes to find a Harvest Time here. And you can go ahead and play the Harvest Time. Let's see, he's got 1, 2, 3. I can't remember if he was playing 57 or not, but he's probably got 3 or 4 Lost Souls left in his deck. We can see Distressed and Punisher. We know that Remnant's back in there. I believe he went for 3, if I remember correctly from watching it when there was audio. But yeah, it looks like that's all that's left in his deck, which getting those 3 out is pretty cool. Getting Remnant out at kind of at dominant speed, so to speak. Just whenever you can play a dominant is pretty cool. It's like they put down their Jonah or something, and then you just play Harvest Time to get your Remnant out, generate some Lost Souls, and then take their Jonah. So yeah, let's see what David's got going on here, because he hasn't had much speed come out, so we haven't been able to see a whole lot of his deck. But it looks like we've got some cool Prophets build, which spoiler alert, that's one of the decks that I was thinking of using at some point during this Grand Prix. I don't know if it'll be for round one or not, but I have been kind of thinking about doing a Prophet's offense, um, and now after watching this game, I'm like, all right, I got to make sure that it's fast enough because it's tough to keep up with some of these defenses that came out in GOC here. Then the defense is a little bit splashy, kind of some Magician, some Brown. I saw Confusion. Well, it's a deck that Matthew would love to see. But it makes sense that he's got, Storehouse in there. Get that out right away. So Saul of Tarsus, Balaam's Disobedience. Yeah, I think Saul of Tarsus and Profane Daughters with Unsuccessful and Reserve is a pretty good combination there. So, all right, looks like he picks the OT only Lost Soul, which that's a cool meta play. A lot of people are playing NT offenses right now, and so if OT only is the only Lost Soul that you draw, then like in your opening hand or something like that, then it's pretty cool. Makes the opponent have to work a little harder, I guess. I guess there's a lot of negate neutral stuff still, so it's a little bit tricky, but he also got the blind Lost Soul, negate NT Lost Souls, and then the humble Lost Soul. And yeah, looks like he's not really worrying about negating NT Lost Souls at this point because Lawless and Galileans have already activated, and Sheol is gone, so he's probably not going to reset them. But yeah, we know that David has nothing to block with, so he hands over the blind. And also, Jake used the Remnant to take Jairus' daughter from his reserve, which makes sense because there are no characters to take with Remnant in territory. So he passes to David's turn after getting down to 8, and he's keeping Elijah in his hand, which is smart because either David could have a way to either ban to him, like we saw Mighty Men in his deck, or a way to bounce him. I don't know. I don't think he was playing like Book of the Law or anything like that, but yeah, could be a way still. So he drew in Exiles. He's using the star ability on Virgin Birth here to look at his top 6. He can underdeck Virgin Birth to take one of them, which is a great star ability for him to have right here because he needs card advantage, or at least card selection here is kind of what he's settling for, which that's good. He grabs an Elisha, which is pretty good. All other things considered equal, Elisha is a pretty strong hero. Get those CBN enhancements, which I think like with one territory class limit, like those kind of heroes are pretty good. I guess like the games are going to be focused a lot on the battles, and so having abilities like that on Elisha and on Isaiah to make your battle winner CBN is pretty strong, and that's kind of why I was thinking that Prophets would be a solid choice for this, and so that's why I'm probably going to play it at some point here, but let's see. Okay, so his name comes back with the Exile's Lost Soul. David uses that to top deck his name from his discard pile. And then with Storehouse, he grabs the first sacrifice from reserve, and he puts down a Babel as a fortress, which currently is only 3 brigades. So it's negates fence jumpers, negates one at the well, negates, Jairus' daughter is CBP. I think fence jumpers is as well, but it negates Judas, which would have been nice for David last turn when he was attacking with Elijah and choosing Judas to block. But okay, so now Elisha is coming in. He gets to discard an evil enhancement from opponent's deck, which also pretty good, especially with battle focused gameplay. So let's see what he's able to find. He puts Humble and Treacherous Land. I mentioned that before he goes into battle. So the fun part with Elisha is that you can reveal your own hand. If you for sure have an evil dominant, you can, and you know you want to guarantee that your green enhancements are going to be CBN, then you can reveal your own hand and shuffle your evil dominant, and then make sure you get the CBN enhancements, because if you reveal Jake's hand like he does in this case, and there are no evil dominants, then it doesn't get the CBN enhancements. He discards Ambush from Jake's deck, which that's a pretty solid choice if you're going up against Thieves. Ambush is kind of the card where if your opponent is playing that later in the game, like you've probably lost. Because there's just so much value that your opponent can get through banding in all of their evil characters. They can take stuff from your hand, negate stuff, prevent enhancements, draw a whole bunch of cards. Like it's just a lot. So okay, so he's blocking with the Highwayman and playing Den of Thieves in lieu of drawing one card, which that's the thing with Highwayman. Like if you're only drawing one card, either your opponent is playing a very conservative deck brigades wise, or they just don't have any characters down and you're already winning the game pretty or you've got the card advantage or the board advantage pretty heavily in your favor. So he bans to Plunderers to prevent the next good card played in battle, or prevent the next good enhancement to take it, is what the wording is, I believe. And then he's able to also ban to a Thief, so he bans to Zacchaeus, and he gets to draw 6, because he's got 6 Thieves out. So, like I was saying, no limit on that ability from Zacchaeus. So, with the setup that Jake has here, it just kind of snowballs into more and more, to where he's got 10 cards left in his deck and David has 37. So it's not looking so good on the card advantage side of things. And I think it was just a lot of it was just that first battle that Jake was able to get those 9 cards. Is just crazy. I mean, it was like a Matthew block basically. But he did have to work a little harder for it. He had to put a few more characters in than just Matthew. So it looks like the numbers, or Jake's numbers, are 19-19. So we'll see what David plays here. Now he does have a Humble Lost Soul out, so even though Plunders is preventing the next good enhancement to take it, he will still get to use the ability on the enhancement that he plays. Which we know that he has the first sacrifice, and we know that he has Word of Their Testimony. I really should have brought some water down here with me, because my voice is getting quite dry after doing all this talking. It's more than I usually do. Most of the time I'm just sitting here and talking half the time. So yep, first sacrifice comes down. He can negate an evil or neutral card in a territory. I'm not actually sure what he negates here. Den of Thieves would probably make the most sense, but maybe also Judas or something if he's got a banned ability. More importantly, he underdecks an evil card from opponent's hand or an evil card in battles. Looks like he's going for his hand, and is going to take out the enhancement. Yep, Left for Dead. So now it's just a matter of getting the numbers in order to try to win this battle. So he plays Word of Their Testimony to underdeck an evil human. That also hits. So here is where they're realizing that the first sacrifice should get taken by Plunderers. But yeah, Word of Their Testimony would also allow him to negate and banish a demon, but there are none in play, so no valid targets. So first sacrifice gets taken. And Plunderers gets underdecked, which makes sense, is kind of the highest numbers. And let's see, I believe that leaves, should leave 11-10 as Jake's numbers, and then Elisha. I don't remember what his numbers are. It's been a while since I've seen people using Elisha because everybody's just playing with the new stuff. Okay, so he's a 7-5, so he's a 10-8, so it's actually mutual right now, which is little. I mean, that's great for David in this situation. I mean, he's kind of getting um, a good trade card advantage wise, and then also rescuing a lost soul, of course, is it's good. But yeah, it looks like there's nothing else that Jake can do. He got his one enhancement taken away, so the battle ends in mutual, and David rescues a hopper. Um, so yeah, I think that if David was able to generate more like card advantage in this case, he like. So Jake's at 2. He's used his second coming. He's got Son of God, so he's got one freebie. He's kind of basically at 3. Um, so he needs to make 2 more successful rescues. And I think if David was able to make a couple blocks, then like maybe he would be able to kind of inch his way back into the game. Just because as Jake has had to use a lot of his defense already, and um, David's been able to kind of whittle away at it just a little bit, or kind of chip away, taking out grapes and making him use at least one enhancement each battle, or taking out his Left 4 Dead. I guess Left 4 Dead will come back eventually, so his interdict, and he destroyed Seized by Babylon, but took out some of his key evil characters like Nebuchadnezzar and Highwayman, Zacchaeus, and ambushing bandits is gone as well. So David, does kind of have a shot if he was able to get a little bit more card advantage, but we can he's still only got one card left in his hand, so it's not looking the best for him. Let's see what Jake does here. So he puts down David's Elijah and tries to play the first sacrifice. I don't think he realized, though, that it only negates evil or neutral card, so it's not quite as good as Teaching in Parables, which is just silly. The Teaching in Parables does what it does, but it's a good card. But again, Jake played it, so he's gonna follow through with it. So just gonna let it fizzle. And it looks like he is now going into battle. I mean, I guess it still counts as his one territory class enhancement. He's exchanging for Watchful Servant in his deck with Angel from the Winds, which, I mean, he's only got 9 cards left in his deck, but yeah, now he's going to, I guess he doesn't get to reserve the bottom card because of Storehouse, and he doesn't have anything to draw because David doesn't have any heroes, and the X is based on the number of heroes opponent controls, so he's just going in with Watchful Servant and banding to Jairus' daughter, which makes sense. You can top deck her to toss the next evil enhancement played this battle. So, even if the one card that David had left was like a Saul of Tarsus or something, which could go to reserve to grab unsuccessful, then that would get tossed. So, smart play there. Like, when your opponent is at very few cards or like very few resources, then tossing the next is always a safe bet. Making a block like Nebuchadnezzar, going out with a hero like Jairus' daughter. So, yeah, David has to hand over the lost soul there. That puts Jake at 3. Looks like he's going to go ahead and drop his Son of God to rescue the humble. Which, maybe they're, I think he had Son of God earlier to where, he could have rescued humble before David went to his attack to stop him from getting that CBP first sacrifice, but that's something that, like, you're not really, no one would really expect you to like in this situation, like no one would expect you to kind of foresee that that's going to, be meaningful in this particular instance, I guess. Um, maybe he could have uh, remembered that he had word of their testimony and the first sacrifice, so we did have two enhancements. But like if with all of the cards that Jake had already, or like all of the card advantage, it's not really something that you think you'll need, I guess. But something to keep in mind that maybe it would be useful. So he goes ahead and discards Plague of Blood because he's already played one territory class enhancement this turn, and also Storehouse is protecting David's deck anyway, so not really no real use in hanging on to it. Looks like David draws a Covet and a Hunter, which I don't think there are any Lost Souls left in Jake's deck, so Covet probably won't do anything. But Hunter might be able to. I guess exchanging for Darkness doesn't really help because it's only if you draw it without having evil characters in play. So, yeah, no real or no like card advantage. I don't think you can get from using Hunter here. So he ends up exchanging for Distressed. Anyway, I mean, still makes sense to use it even if you're not going to get any card advantage necessarily. Turns off Jake's Good Samaritan here, which never know if that will come in handy even at this point in the game. Looks like David's taking Unsuccessful with Storehouse. Good to have that as an option to block if he found an evil character here. They'll just have to get initiative before Jake's able to play a Battle Winner or Amazing Faith or something like that. The Sherapole is pretty cool too. During battle, protects your OT evil or your evil OT humans from good cards with negated in the special ability. So it protects from Persistent Widow, from Bartimaeus, Watchful Servant, I think is also CBN, or maybe he's CBI. I know Thankful Leper is CBI. Okay, yeah, he's CBI, so still Persistent Widow and Bartimaeus are pretty good to protect from, and then also the enhancements as well. So like Who is Without Sin, that's CBN. If used against a Pharisee and Amazing Faith, that's got CBN. So it looks like David did draw a False Leaders, which is a great initiative character for Unsuccessful. It's an interesting one for one territory class. You get to use your one territory class on your opponent's turn, which normally you wouldn't be able to do under other circumstances, like actually playing them in territory. You could still play them in battle, of course, but you only get one trigger from them. So if they use a draw, I think it's draw or search ability, then it only works once. Whereas normally you just get to do it 4 times if they trigger it 4 times. So it's Jake's turn now. Looks like he plays the Shipwreck on that, a much needed Shipwreck, I suppose, on that Storehouse. I'm sure he would have liked to have dealt with that many moons ago, but that's if you're playing Thieves, you make sure you're packing a Shipwreck with you, because I think people are catching on that hand protection and deck protection is important to have, especially if you want to do soul hiding or like just there's so many ways that people are attacking hands these days. So yeah, Jake goes in with the Thankful Leper and gets to look at the last 6 cards in his deck. and take one of them. And unfortunately for David here, I think he kind of sees the writing on the wall that as soon as he blocks, I mean he's not going to get initiative with against the Thankful Leper because Thankful Leper is a 110, and then also he's got a Herod's Temple that or Jake has a Herod's Temple that he can activate, and so as soon as he does that, and he's got a bunch of enhancements that he can toss. He's got Faith of Samson for 5, Restoring the Afflicted for 6, and Amazing Faith for 7. He's got Who's Without Sin for 4, and Emmaus Road for 3. So he's got the whole 3 through 7 ready to toss to Herod's Temple. So there's a question that I'm not sure about is, does Ashura Pull protect from the tossing of a cannot be negated enhancement? Or do you have to protect from the toss ability? I think you have to protect from the toss ability because, like, even if it's Herod's Temple and you're tossing it, like, if you activate your Herod's Temple and your opponent is tossing their evil enhancement, even if you're protected from evil cards, it's Herod's Temple that's doing the tossing, so that's doing the decrease. So I'm pretty sure that's the that it would not protect from like tossing Amazing Faith if you had Ashura Pull active or something like that. So yeah, David just decides not to block here. He knows that there's nothing left for him to do here, so he hands it over, and Jake ends up winning 5-2. So this was a good game. I would have liked to see more of David's deck. I mean, I'm sure he would have liked to have seen more of his deck. I do like the idea of running profits in this format, I guess, with these rules. And there are some good territory class enhancements that you're going to want to run with them, but you can also just play them in battle, like we saw David do there, playing that Emmaus Road. And we did have some good battles in this game. That first turn was just crazy, or David's first turn. I mean the whole first round was pretty good. We saw some great plays from both sides, getting the David having that Vain Philosophy that he dropped, and even without the hand knowledge that he had from using the star ability on Emmaus Road, like that was still a reasonable play to make, of just like dropping Vain Philosophy right away. It kind of depends on what you have in the rest of your hand. Like if you don't have an evil character, then maybe it's still worth a shot to try that. Take out maybe their only hero, or take out at least their best hero or something. So like if they have if they've got Simon the Zealous and Matthew in their opening hand, well, you probably want to just underdeck the Matthew and save yourself some hassle there. So I think first turn Vain Philosophy is still good. If you did have an evil character, then maybe you'd want to save it for the block, where you can get some more value on it, because you can hit a card from their hand and then maybe also take out one of their heroes. But ooh, my voice is getting dry. So I think that probably means I should wrap it up here. Yeah, great game to watch. Definitely appreciate Jake recording it, sharing it with me, and for both of these guys for allowing me to do some commentary on it and post the video. Hope you guys enjoy kind of this format of just getting a game breakdown of what's going on. I wish there was a better way for me to highlight the cards so that you guys could see what I'm talking about when I'm talking about them, instead of just relying on these guys to highlight them. I could go like back through in the editing process like I used to do for online tournament games and put a card up that I'm talking about, but it's a lot of work that frankly I don't really have time to do. I wish I did. I'd love to make the content more accessible in that way, but hopefully it was enough at least to for me to kind of read off abilities and explain them when they were happening. And also, yeah, there's nothing stopping you guys from having Lackey open while you're watching the video, unless you're, like watching it on your phone or something. Yeah, I suppose that'd be kind of annoying. I would find that annoying. So I apologize for that. Maybe in the future I'll figure out how to get like a my own Lackey window like overlaid on it with the card highlighted, so I could look that up. Maybe I'll figure that out once I have my desktop back up and running. I did kind of think about that with for this video, but I don't think I was going to be able to get that working with the MacBook that I'm the old MacBook that I'm working off of. Like I had to restart my computer just to get my cursor to move at the right speed. So because it's just with OBS open, sometimes things can get slow. So anyways, that is the video. Let me know what you guys think about this this format of video. We're probably going to have a few of them um, yeah, as we go throughout this Grand Prix. I'll probably at least have the normal releases be my games from this point on, but the I might like save some of the comment or the games that people save me for like future commentary videos, or I might release them as kind of like bonus content if I'm feeling ambitious, I guess, and have time to put that together for you guys. So um, yeah, don't count on that, but it's a possibility. So anyways, thanks again for watching. We'll catch you all next time.